Whenever the carbon fiber paddles came out, I was like a skeptic, I have to say. I had the paddles that I had always used. I thought like, oh, these are fine. But I tried some out and it was a mind-blowing feeling in the water swimming with those.
Welcome to the Low Tide Boys, a Swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris, and this is episode 225 of the show. We've got something for all you gear freaks out there this week.
Get your freak on.
Joining us to have a deliciously niche chat about all things carbon fiber paddles is our friend and fellow obsessed swimrunner, Hugh Bowman. We've been fans of these paddles for years, talked about them incessantly on previous episodes, and in prep for this show, have pretty much tried all the paddles that are available today in the stores. Well, on the internet. So join us as we geek out on this particular piece of Swimrun kit.
Of lightweight carbon fiber goodness.
Carbon fiber deliciousness.
Speaking of deliciousness, a huge thank you to our friends over at Form Swim for sponsoring the show this month. The sponsorship coincides with their recently released Smart Swim 2 goggles. It's been really awesome. Been loving those things. They were kind enough to send Chris and I a pair over. They have a built-in heart rate monitor. They have the head coach system, workout planners, training plans. They got it all, and we've been using it all. I've really been enjoying the real-time heart rate data that you get because, okay, I'll look at my workout. Okay, it's going to be a little spicy. I expect that heart rate to go up. And right there in the app, in the Form app, it tells you, hey, you spent this much time at Zone 2, some Zone 3, Zone 1. So really, really great that. And Chris, I know you've been really digging the workout plans and the head coach.
Yeah, I have. It's been great.
And I have my form score suboptimal. I'm working on it. I have a few areas that the form goggles are helping me improve my technique and form there. But really appreciate Form for sponsoring the show this month.
Yeah, for sure.
But also something very cool. We are doing a giveaway for a pair of the new Form Smart Swim 2 goggles. Our giveaway's over on our Instagram account. So if you're not already following over there, now's a great time to do that. So head on over to the Low Tide Boys on Instagram to enter to win your own pair of Smart Swim 2 goggles.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Form.
Yeah, I think super stoked to have gotten to work with them. It was super fun, and we might try to do some stuff with them when we're up in Whistler. So that'll be
for
be super
the A
cool.
race for Attila Whistler.
Yeah, but I think with that, before we get into this week's show, huge, just blanket shout out to everyone who raced Swimrun Lake James.
Seemed like a great day out there.
Looked wonderful.
And my phone told me it knew the Swimrun Lake James was in this time vicinity, and it surfaced some photos of you and I. I'm like, oh wow, that was 2022. Yep. Looked very hot. We looked very hot finishing that race. I think I remember that being a thing. But great way to kick off the swimrun season here in the United States. And next up is Swimrun Bellingham.
That's right.
And we will be up at that one in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, so join us. But I think with that, let's just get into, prepare to get your freak on, because, this is probably as dorky, as in the weeds as we can possibly get. But you know what? I stand by. A lot of
people have these questions.
Yeah.
They want to know, what paddles are you guys using? Are carbon fiber good? Are they bad? They got fins. They got wings on them. They're as big as trash cans. What does all this mean? And we try to, demystify this a bit for you. Share our own experiences. And we were able to test out 4 different paddle types and talk through the different carbon fiber ones there to maybe make it easier for you to decide, but probably make it harder. Yeah. Because there's so many options.
Yeah. I guess I hope listeners at the end of this are, maybe a little bit more on the freak scale on carbon fiber. Yeah. But also it's okay. The sport is super young. Even this, as you'll hear, the sizing is it's all over the place. But this is sort of the pointy end, cutting edge part of the sport. It's like, okay, what can we optimize People are working on shoes. People are obviously working on pool buoys, wetsuits.
Kits, yeah.
You know, there's all parts of the kit where there's room for improvement. So it's kind of cool to study this because, you know, spoiler alert, carbon fiber paddles tend to make you faster.
That's undisputed in this conversation.
Yeah.
Good call on the spoiler alert there. We do want to have some, maybe materials for your consideration for review before. We did a Gear Talk episode with Coach Purplepatch Fitness Coach John Stevens on paddles for Swimrun just in general. So we didn't actually in that episode. It was back in 2020, and I don't even think their carbon fiber paddles were really much of a thing then. But a really great educational episode on, hey, I have questions. What size paddles should I be using? Should I even be using paddles? What are they good for? What should I look out for? John Stevens, expert level in the swim area, expert swim runner. So great episode to check out there if you're looking for more paddle content specifically for Swimrun.
Yeah, definitely.
And we discussed several different models as well in this episode before we kick it off to the conversation with Hugh. Obviously, Frank Paddle is near and dear to our heart, has been a supporter for us for a while. We talked about the Blue Steel, the Pro model, and then the just released Pro Blue models of Frank Paddles. We talked about all the carbon options from Arc Sports, the carbon blades, and then the carbon rocket blades, as well as the non-carbon blade models, and from Evolvent, the XTD Snakeskins.
Yeah, which was very interesting.
That was
Talk about being on the cutting edge of trying to see what's possible.
They're doing it. And we also talked about some Roka Pro Swim model paddles from back in the day. What we originally started
I
with.
went to try to link them in the show notes. Discontinued, man.
Oh man, Roka. They're all about sunglasses these days. But anyway, let's get into it. Our conversation with Hugh Bowman, your ultimate guide to all things carbon fiber swim paddles. We're in deep, baby.
Real deep. All right, I'm super stoked for this conversation. Joining us to do the ultimate carbon fiber paddle breakdown is a friend of ours, longtime swim runner, Hugh Bowman. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, happy to be here.
Yeah, I know you had some trepidation as to why we chose you. Well, for one, we've been chatting with you about this stuff already, so that made sense. And we were just talking before we went on air. There's a complete lack of standardization when it comes to carbon fiber sizing, shapes, everything. It's the Wild West. So instead of trying to rank them like which is the best, which is the worst, we wanted to bring you on because you're as obsessed on this stuff as we are. And essentially let's just go through why carbon fiber, why the stiffness. If folks listening at home need any more authority, what the Hugh has, D1, college swimmer, like it's all good. But yeah, so with that, how are you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, doing well. Thanks guys. Went for my first swim run in a while this weekend in Indiana. Had a great time.
Nice.
It was kind of like a trial run of the mud skipper. So
yeah, cool. Okay.
Yeah, so the race director was out taking some little promo videos, and we were giving.
Are you a model? Are you a sports model now?
So he sent me the promo video recently,
Sounds
and it's
like
very distant shots. I'm not doing any sort of modeling.
Awesome, dude.
Nice. Well, that's cool. And yeah, they're doing two mud skippers in Indiana. So if you're in the Indiana area, shoot over and do a mud skipper race.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Cool. Okay. Well,
event in Indiana for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I mean, it's bad when. I mean, not that it's bad. Bless you, Indiana, but Indiana has more swim runs than California.
That is, that hurts me.
Problematic.
That's painful to my ears to hear. But what I do like hearing is that Hugh is a proper swimmer, D1 college experience. Why don't you give us a little bit of your history of background on swimming? And Chris and I are just layman swimmers. That's what we'll say.
Yeah, sure. So grew up swimming, did some other sports, did football, baseball, but later in high school it was just swimming. Swam at TCU, burnt out pretty hardcore. And afterwards, wasn't really interested in doing any pool swimming, wasn't really interested in doing any athletics of any kind through most of my 20s. In my 30s, I got into running. Son was being born. I wanted to get back into shape before he came because I knew it would be impossible then. So I signed up for a marathon. That was like fall of 2019. The marathon was going to be
nice
spring 2020.
Ooh.
So that didn't end up happening. But
Yeah.
I really got into running and enjoyed it. And like kind of through that COVID summer was, doing some like outdoor adventures, got into like trail running, found that, and also found like open water swimming, which I had never done growing up, even though I did like so much swimming. And it was way more fun, enjoyable to me. And so then I started looking for something to do that could combine these things because I wanted to keep running because it's a lot easier to fit into my schedule.
Sure.
I still wasn't that interested in like doing like master swimming or pool swimming of any kind. So I was like looking around for something that could combine these and looking at like aquathlons, and there aren't that many, and none of them look that interesting. But at some point I found like there was going to be this race in Ludington, a swim run, and it looked very cool. And found you guys at some point during that, but got pretty interested in Swimrun and did love it, Ludington, and loved it. Didn't think that Swimrun was like completely for me yet because I figured that I would need to recruit like a local partner to do these races because like Casco was like my dream race at that point. I really want, like with a swimming background, like swimming between the islands, Casco was like my dream, but I thought that, I need to recruit someone locally, get them interested enough to do
it seemed like quite a bar to clear. Like you got to explain Swimrun. You got to like
right. Yeah, you have to explain it. It's like, do you want to do this completely random activity? What? Yeah, just
and get them interested enough to like fly to Maine. So I thought it would be like a kind of multi-year process to get someone to do Casco. And actually, so yeah, I have to throw a shout out to a couple of people. I've told Marcus his story, but so this would have been like 2022. Like I was just like my only plan that year was to do Mackinac, like the only Michigan race. Like, but Marcus had this story about I think it was the Knoxville swim run.
Oh yeah, where you just pick some dude like literally off the street,
parking lot, like the day before, like, and that guy had no idea what swim run was, but he convinced him to do this race, and they won it. But yeah, just like I was just like, why am I just waiting around to recruit someone, to get someone here? Like I should just take a chance. And like right after that, like Sarah got posted in one of
fellow Novato resident.
Yeah, and that was like
fellow master swimmer with us.
Yeah, exactly. And we were like matched up perfectly, and that race went so well. So awesome. I really appreciate Marcus for that story, kind of inspiring me to
cool.
Try it with a random person, and Sarah for taking a chance on.
Love it.
Yeah.
So
great.
Just we've been on such a
sport,
swim run, like wholesome swim run episode streak lately. But anyway,
love this sport.
Hugh, we're super excited. We do want to say we did talk to Purplepatch Fitness coach John Stevens. We had an episode all about Swimrun for paddles, and that one we didn't particularly talk too much about carbon, but like if you're wondering, hey, what size should I use? Should I use them at all? That's a great episode. That'll be linked in the show notes. But this one, I can't hold back any longer.
That's a really good point, though, Chipper. It's like, if you're listening to this, obviously just listen to it whenever you want. Yeah. But if you haven't heard that paddles episode, that's almost like 101 on swimming with paddles and swim running with paddles. So this is like, we're just assuming in this conversation, it's going to be like swim runner. We're just assuming that you understand the why paddles.
Yeah, it was a Gear Talk episode actually with the Swimrun Lab, September 29th, 2020. So
wow. Okay. Yeah. So deep.
We'll have to recut that one.
Deep in the
all
archive.
The advice in that episode still applies, but probably at like a much higher level for like the sizing and stuff, but also because of the stiffness in the
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna say hey, you decided you want to use paddles for Swimrun, and now the question probably is, why would you want to use carbon fiber paddles?
Or you got the bug, you got the sickness, and you're like, I got to get the suit. I got my ARC suit. I got my, Adidas Terex. I got this, I got that. What don't I have? At some point, all that's left is carbon fiber paddles.
Yeah. And that's where we're all at in our lives. And the first step is acknowledgement. So that's where we are. And this whole exercise really brought to center how spoiled we are, Chris. We're looking at 5 different carbon fiber paddles literally sitting in front of us right now. Yeah. So we've tried them all, and we'll be at a race and someone will have some different ones that we haven't seen, and we're like, ooh, let's see those, and we'll try them out. And Hugh was really into it as well. So Hugh, actually, we did a little bit of a paddle swap. We sent you a pair of Frank Paddle Pros. Frank Paddle are very near and dear to Chris and I's heart, so there is going to be bias in this episode. I'll just get that out of the way now. And then Hugh, you had some that you sent us, so why don't you talk a little bit about your Evolvent snakeskins that you shared? Yeah,
sure. So, and first of all, I'll say too that whenever the carbon fiber paddles came out, I was like a skeptic, I have to say. 'Cause like I had the paddles that I had always used. I thought like, oh, these are fine. Like, and there's also an element of swimrun. There are a lot of like triathletes, and I thought it was a kind of like a kind of triathlete thing that wanted to bring
their weight carbon fiber it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was a little bit skeptical about it. Yeah. But I tried some out, and like this Invol camp at Austin, I got to try some of the ARC rocket blades, like the wings, and it was a mind blowing feeling in the water swimming with those. They were it felt amazing, but like I need to develop the lats to be able to handle it for a longer distance. I could tell that. So when I got back, I was doing some research, and because they're comparable to like a pair of running shoes, and
they're about $150.
Yeah. So when you're looking at what running shoes to get, there's a lot of information you can compare, contrast, figure out what might work for you. But with the paddles, there's not a lot of information. I thought they would be pretty similar. That the carbon fiber would be very stiff, like I tried with the ARC rocket blades. And so the like Evolvent ones were more affordable. They're like probably around 100 and had a discount code. So, and I thought they looked pretty sweet. So I ordered a medium pair of those and tried them out, and they were vastly different.
They're huge.
Well, for one, okay, so I tried out the
medium for Andre the Giant's kid.
Yeah, I tried out the medium rocket blades, and so I also got medium the Evolvent XTD, thinking I would use those some and work up to using them more. But they're a lot bigger, and they're also have some flex to them.
That's like the main advantage of using carbon fiber paddles. Obviously, one, they're a little bit lighter. I mean, we're talking about plastic versus like carbon fiber. I would say, you don't get carbon fiber paddles to save like 100 grams or whatever the weight is, but they're incredibly stiff. Some of them, some don't even flex at all. So
like rocket, like the ARC rocket blades, the Frank paddles.
Yeah.
They don't bend.
They don't budge at all. So on your step in, Hugh, if I misspeak on my swim mechanics explanation, but during your pull phase, when you're pulling water, which is like how you accelerate yourself, it feels like you're moving way more water than with plastic paddles, because plastic paddles kind of give a little bit. So you're not, so it ends up making you faster.
Right.
That's
plus
about as sciencey as we can get.
Yeah, and so at least this is something that I think I've noticed, and I'm curious of your take on this, Chipper, since you tried the Evolvent ones. Like the Evolvent ones are kind of like cupped. If you and then they flex to like straight, and then as you pull through, the plastic ones flex past straight, I think. So going back to plastic now, I can feel losing a lot of water as they flex past kind of vertical. With the Evolvent ones, they start kind of cupped, flex to straight, and then there's no more give to them at all at that point. But yeah, the in the rocket blades and the Frank paddles, at least the Frank paddles that I've tried, I think they have some other models that
but they're all the same stiffness.
Yeah, okay. On their website, they say that some are like less or have some flex.
They do. I don't know if he's making those ones anymore, but I would say there's kind of two main styles of paddles that we've seen on the carbon fiber piece. There's like the Arc style and the Evolvent style, which is like, it looks like a sheet of carbon fiber and it's kind of like stamped, like they took a big stamp and they cut out a shape of a paddle. That's one way to make the paddles that we've seen.
Yeah, and that's the Arc blades, the Arc rocket blades, and the Evolvent.
Yeah. And then there's the Frank paddle one, which is also stamped and cut, but it's like glued together, and it actually float because there's a little bit of something else in there. I don't know. We'll have to ask for a drink.
Like hard foam or something.
But they're glued together, and there's like a rail in between, so it's a slightly different. But I think that the gluing of the two sides together makes the Frank paddles probably the stiffest. Like you can't flex them at all. And I mean, the Arc blades, you're not like bending them in half or anything, but they do have a little bit of flex. But anyway, and then the Evolvent's definitely the most kind of bendy.
Yeah. And I'll I think, I don't know if this is the right time to do it, but I'm thinking about it, so we'll do it now. Just put like a note on durability. So you might think, oh, carbon fiber, it's going to be like, brittle, but
oh man, tanks.
They're tanks. Never had any problem with them. Attila, just like grasping at stuff with your paddle, like whatever's required, no problem at all. So if you're thinking, man, that's a lot of money, are these things durable? That's been our experience. But yeah, I think going back to the construction, I think you're right, Chipper. To me, that seems to be like the main and most obvious difference in the style for carbon fiber paddles.
What do you have any thoughts on any of that stuff, Hugh?
Yeah, so the two styles with like I think of like some being like winged and some being without winged, and the winged ones to me make a big difference. And like going back to like John Stevens' episode where he gives a lot of advice on swimming with paddles, like again, like the caveat is that like this doesn't apply to everyone, but like for me personally with my stroke, like I kind of have a long glidey stroke, and that those wings give me like a noticeable amount of power more than the kind of more traditionally shaped.
Like a hand paddle
without the fin. Yeah. Wings, fins. So there's kind of how your normal hand paddle would be, but coming down on your wrist, there's two wings or sort of fins on them, and that's kind of become one of the more popular styles in the carbon.
Yeah, that's kind of like game. where everything appears to be evolving.
Yeah,
and sort of in that direction.
Where do we want to go now? I'm just looking at all this carbon fiber around.
I mean, I think it's like there's a lot of carbon fiber here right now. I think Hugh, in terms of like, why don't we talk a little bit about the testing that we've done, right? So we've all tried all the paddles that we have. I actually did a pretty thorough test of the Evolvent. I mean, I basically did like 450s in the Franks, 450s in those, 450s with nothing. Did that like 3 times. So really got like a good, like even put them backwards one time just to see what it'd be like with the big old fin sticking out. Don't recommend it. Note to self. But yeah, so why don't we go through, Hugh, why don't you tell us like how you sort of, we're trying to find some ranking, some order amongst them.
Sure. So I didn't get to try them all out next to each other. So like most of my feedback is like qualitative more than
that's cool.
That's fine.
That's cool.
I mean,
but
we're not so NASA
here. Yeah, I tried the medium rocket blades separately, and then tried the medium Frank Paddle Pros and the Evolvent XTD medium side by side.
Those are all fin. Those all have the wings on them.
Yeah,
okay.
Because that's what I was. I most was interested in comparing these kind of this style between the three. So for me, my first experience was with the Rocket Blades and the mediums. For me, versus like Frank, the Frank Paddle Pros are a lot smaller.
Yeah, for sure.
The Frank Paddle Pro medium kind of fits between small and medium for the Rocket Blades. Actually, it's about the same size as a small Rocket Blade. Are those both smalls that you're holding?
These are both mediums. This is great pod material, but we're actually visualizing.
There's like an inch.
There's a little. It's pretty.
Maybe an inch.
Yeah, there's maybe
inch longer.
Yeah, they're fairly similar.
Yeah, at least for me, and this was going off of like maybe a few weeks between trying them. But like for me on the mediums, Frank Paddle Pros, I didn't feel like I was grabbing as much, or I didn't have the same experience. But like if I like the large, I think would have been a more comparable comparison. I don't think there would have been. I don't think I would have felt like I was lacking anything if I went with the large to compare to the medium Rocket Blade.
Interesting.
Now, I think this might be a good time to preface as well, is that with pull buoys, bigger is better. Go as big as you can handle on that. With paddles, you kind of got to be a little bit careful because especially the carbon, there's not a lot of flex, so it puts more strain on your shoulders. So you got to kind of work your way up. Maybe you don't go right from your plastic paddle size to carbon fiber. Maybe you kind of work yourself up, but you don't want to just get the like big XLs just because they're the biggest one, because you'll be like,
some big old trash.
You'll be all jacked up. Your shoulders will be all jacked.
Definitely. So like, I did see the XL Rocket Blades, and
those things are insane,
massive. They're unbelievable. I can't imagine how much strength it would take to pull with those. But yeah, I don't think they're for everybody. And I think John says this in the original paddles episode, but like you need to have like a good stroke where you're catching properly and engaging your larger muscles and not pulling and using too much of your smaller shoulder muscles. If you have a good stroke, though, I think there's some benefit to it. There are also different ways to swim, and so some people have like a higher stroke rate, and I hear that talks about a lot on the show. And the larger the paddle, the harder you'll be able to keep up your stroke rate. I have like a very long glidey stroke, and like the large paddle works really well for me. And,
I'd like your opinion on this, Hugh, but to me, that's almost like the optimal stroke for Swimrun, right? Where you got big paddles, you're crossing sometimes large bodies of water. It's like you're not trying to, if you're Max and Hugo, like this, we're not talking about that. We're talking about like just normal people. Like having a nice, slow, long stroke is good. It keeps your heart rate down. Your cadence is low. You're not burning too much on those swims. You need to warm up, you can just speed it up. But, it seems to me, and again, I'd love your opinion on it, like that seems like an optimal sort of like long swim run stroke.
For me, that's what I've always thought works well for me. But like, also I'm a decent swimmer, but I'm like not a very good runner. So like by having a longer glidey stroke and pulling a lot of water, but using more strength in my like cardio system, if I'm working my cardio too much in the water, I will blow up by the end of the race, or I have to I have to take my runs a lot easier. But if I am essentially like bringing my heart rate down during the swims, like I can actually push my runs a lot harder than I could normally.
From a tactical perspective. So
it helps me, but
yeah. So, different strokes for different folks, pun intended on that, but some, what works for Hugh or what works for Chris and I might be the total opposite of what you need. So try a couple different things out, maybe meet up, with your friends and do your own little paddle testing day. But so you compared the Franks versus the Arc rocket blades, and you felt the rocket blades are a little bigger, but you felt like you can get a little bit more water with those.
I think mainly because they were bigger, the models that I was comparing. I think if I compared the Rocket Blade medium to the large Frank paddle, I think I would be pretty similar. But I haven't tried it, so that's really a guess. But
yeah.
Now, I'm curious how your experience was with the Evolvent, because it's the Frank paddle and the Arc rocket blades are generally 95% the same kind of shape and the same everything, but the Evolvent ones are much different.
They are. And so again, so I ordered these, and there's no information. I thought all these were pretty much the same. These are cheaper. I have a discount. They look pretty sweet.
Yeah,
that was pretty much what I was basing it off of. And then I got them, and my experience was these are completely different. And I don't even know yet if and there are a lot of factors on better or worse. I don't know but the Flex tired my shoulders out, even though they're huge in comparison. I can swim a lot more with those just without having to work up to it. Whereas the medium rocket blades, for sure, I would have to work up to using those in a race. And I'm assuming similar. I think I could use the medium Frank Paddle Pros, but it would have to probably work up to the larges, I would guess. But the Evolvents, because they have some flex, I could use them more immediately. And then the question that I had that maybe more of an expert would be able to answer is that the part of the thing with carbon is the lack of flex or the stiffness. So with a more flexible carbon paddle, do you think you're losing some of the benefits or reasons for having a carbon paddle and paying $100 plus for a pair of paddles with flex?
Yeah. I mean, that's a very fair point. If it isn't about the chicness of it,
or the weight, or the
or
extraness.
the weight, if it really ends up being stiffness is the performance-based reason for getting these, yeah, less flex, the better.
Yeah, and so at some point you guys actually sent me some of the Arc blades, the plastic blades.
Oh yeah,
and so
we did.
They're when you sent me those, I was just using my normal plastics normie swim paddles, and those are plastic, and they don't have the holes, and they're also I think more stiff plastic than what I was used to. So I don't know if a very stiff plastic paddle that had the shape and could also be maybe a little more expensive, but in the $30-$40 range could be interesting.
Well, I think the Arc plastic blade and the original Arc carbon blade are essentially the same stamp. So those were
just one's in carbon fiber.
That was apples to apples, and the main difference was they were stiffer, but they were still kind of bendy.
Yeah, I think that was also the V1s. They have upgrade. They
got a bit thicker.
Yeah, they got it definitely started using a different thickness. But that's certainly a good point. And I mean, in my experience with plastic paddles, I had the Roka ones, and those things were pretty stiff. I could see if you had a pretty thick piece of plastic, and you just cut it out in the whatever shape you want.
Yeah,
it feels like you're getting 80-90% of the benefit for, $15 instead of $150.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, the Roka ones, those it's going to sound ridiculous. Those are the ones I used for my entire swimrun career, essentially, until Papa Frederic hooked us up with the Franks, and haven't gone back, obviously, but yeah, plastic does the job too.
Yeah. So I would really like for it would be awesome if Arc or someone put out a plastic paddle with a wing shape.
The rocket
very
shape,
relatively stiff plastic with the wings. I think would be super interesting.
Cool.
We should just make them ourselves.
Yeah.
We're never going to release the show now. Okay. We're
All right.
And announcing.
And Chris, you did some testing. I have a Google sheet with data on it, SWOLF scores.
so proud of you.
Form scores, I busted it all out. I went.
Wow.
I
You went in the lab.
I went into the lab, and it was in a 25-yard pool. That was a lab.
Let's hear let's hear your findings.
Okay. And I'll get my commentary, and I'll give you my history lesson as well. So, yeah, we've been working with Frank Paddle for 4 years now.
Yeah,
he's a great guy. Love the Frank paddles. I was using these Frank Paddle pinks. They're kind of your regular paddle shape, the medium size, and I used these for like 2 years, and I love them. They're great. I busted them out. I started using them again last year. Then Chris was so hot, and Frank sent us the pro ones, but I tried them, and the fin part kind of, I don't know, it kind of bugged me a little bit at first. It threw me off.
I honestly, I didn't understand it because I basically do what we usually do, which is I just did a test, and I was like, okay, I was using the blue Franks, the blue steel ones that had the only real difference between the pink ones, the texture kind of had a little bit of grip to it. It wasn't slick.
It's like a grip tape kind of thing.
Yeah, it was just a matte finish, I guess. And I just did the test, 4 100s with each one a couple times through, and the pros were like 2 seconds per 100 faster. And I was like, okay, I'm done. And Chipper was like, I don't know about it. I'm just going to stick with those. And I was like, okay, dude, that's fine. I'll take my 2 seconds.
But I will say I have used the pros for both Attilas that we did, and I used them for like 2 seasons. So they definitely work. What I did start to, and I got some film analysis done of my stroke. And between the pro paddles and the regular paddles, the pro ones were causing my stroke to kind of get messed up a little bit. So I went back to the Frank Pink paddles, and that's kind of what I've been using. But Frank Paddle just released the Pro Blue Steels, which is the Pro cutout, but with that grip texture. So I'm probably going to go back to this. But anyway, now, so yeah, I like the Frank Pros, and I like the Frank regular ones as well. Now, these Evolvent ones that you sent are really interesting. They have the wings, but one side of the wing is like...
It's asymmetrical,
It's asymmetrical. It's probably another inch wider, and then it also has a really aggressive cut. I like the printout on the top. It looks like a snakeskin, which is probably why it's called snakeskin. But I used these, and they were really... I think I would really have to get used to them. They're very tough to kind of manage, and it made me feel a lot of turbulence in my stroke because of the asymmetrical nature.
It's like, to me, total 100% agree. To me, it was like you're like rowing with a different kind of oar, and you have to get used to like how that oar works kind of thing. But I also think, I agree with you, Hugh. I think talking about these and sort of like, hey, you might need to build into them. You might make sure you were working up like the capacity of using these things. I think for this one, I would definitely need to build up the capacity just to make sure that you like understand your stroke with it even.
Yeah. And these paddles won a Swimrun.com Gear Award as well. So, they're like really solid paddles. But here's what my data says, though. I did 10 200s. I went no gear, pull buoy only. It's the Frank Pink, so the one I've been using, the Frank Pros, and then the Evolvents. And then I snaked it back. Evolvets, Frank Pro, Pink, buoy thing. So I have my time using the new form goggles. I got heart rate. I got the heart rate.
Heart rate too.
Form score and SWOLF. I will say my
Swim Smart 2s.
My best form score and best SWOLF score, which is like efficiency, were with the Evolvets.
Interesting.
The time, negligible. Same time as the pros, and the pink were the same time as well. So from a time perspective on the 200s, I didn't really have much. I mean, I'm looking at seconds. Not like, I'm sure there could have been some change left over of that.
Yeah,
but,
like 4/10.
Yeah, 4/10. I don't really care much about that. I got all between averaging 117 per 100 pace with all the fin with the gear on. So, but I will say and like running with these, they just seem like they're very big, and I could see it being cumbersome. You just have to
take it into consideration. Yeah.
But that's my 2 cents.
Interesting. Yeah. So for me, the time was also negligible I only tested them with the Frank Pros and the Evolvent, and I was faster in the Franks by, also, 5/10 basically. So I was definitely faster in the Pros. And I just think that might just be because, I've basically been training exclusively in the Pro mediums, and I'm essentially swimming for Swimrun right now, not for, improving strokes or anything. I'm just trying to maintain my strength. And Frank's won out. But I do think I'd need to kind of build into them to really maximize the stroke.
And maybe Hugh, what's the benefit or what's the difference with some of them have like kind of come to a peak, like the arc blades and the Frank Pros come to kind of a peak. And these ones have like a really aggressive 45-degree angle on them.
They do. And so, my guess is that part of the pool is used or needs to be used less. Like, so this is kind of interesting, and I don't know if y'all know this, but like your ring finger and pinky, by pressing on those, you're activating your lats more, and like these two fingers, the pointer finger, middle finger, if you push really hard on those, you'll feel it more in your shoulders. And so I think with the paddle being cut off like that, I think it's just like taking some of the strain away from this part of your hand. Where
wow,
I really think that, that's my guess. That's purely
makes
my
sense.
Guess.
I'm sold.
Yeah, and something
makes
else
sense.
Convince me.
that came to mind with that is that with paddles that I've never heard anyone else talk about, but your middle finger, the closer that is to the edge, the easier your pull will be. Like if your paddles are a lot bigger for you and your the paddle sticks out past your finger, like grabbing to start your pull will be a lot harder. Because you're working kind of against the paddle.
Interesting.
And not
for sure. I think definitely have people on the show. Maybe Gemma was talking about that, like choking up on the paddle so that so you're not kind of straining your shoulder, just trying to get on top of it, kind of thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and as far as but the cutout that I was talking about, kind of also like because the bigger wing is on that side, and so I'm actually I'm not sure why the inner wing there is bigger. It seems
it's certainly a design choice.
It is.
I don't.
Yeah, I mean, what I was thinking was like, hey, when you're pulling water, it's just like you're creating less of a space between your chest and the thing, and maybe that just catches more. I don't know, or moves the turbulence, changes the turbulence. But I really don't know. I mean, you know, I really don't know what I'm talking about.
You know more than us. Well, if people are thinking about getting carbon fiber paddles, they don't know where to start. Hugh, you're relatively kind of new. Where would you sort of guide people on, hey, I'm thinking about getting carbon paddles. Where would you have them start?
So first I would ask if you need them. Depending on like what you're using now, what your stroke looks like. If you're if you have some improvements to make to your stroke, I would do that first before like upgrading, especially to a stiffer paddle. You might not need carbon if you're if you're pretty confident your stroke is doing well. There are always improvements you can make, but if you don't have any major improvements to make and you're interested in improving your speed, I think I think starting with one of the more normie shaped paddles, like the Frank blues or pinks, or the Arc regular
Arc blades,
would be the place to start. There are some like Evolvent ones that are similarly shaped. I haven't used those, so
because
something like that.
I think that's pretty sound advice, because the fin or the wing piece is gonna take a little bit of training to kind of get your shoulders up. Like, don't just bust those out and do one race day. Although
for sure, I've been using the large carbon blades, normal blades, like in training, and going to medium rocket blades was vastly different. I was my lats were dead after like 1,000, 1,500. And whereas like with the large regular carbons, I've raced in them and I'm fine.
Okay, so you're going to need to, set aside some training to kind of get yourself some strength up on when you upgrade in paddles, and definitely don't upgrade higher. Get your same size as what you normally have, what you're using for your paddles.
And study the sizings in like millimeters. And,
good point.
Not just like the mediums are in larges, smalls. All that is very different between the different companies.
Very subjective, because you sent us the medium Evolvent. I would say this is like probably at least a large. They're
definitely just way wider.
They're pretty big.
It's larger than the Frank Paddle Pro large. The medium is.
Wow. Yeah. So check sizes.
Yeah. Well, I think that advice, I 100% second that. I think that just makes a lot of sense. Like, do you need them? Start small, be conservative, maybe try no fins at first, and then work your way up as you're developing your strength and your stroke and all that stuff, and just let it mature.
Mm-hmm. And for me, the way that I swim, I love it. But like, that isn't like someone else with a different stroke, or it might be a bad thing for them. And to spend like, $100, $150 on paddles. If you're able to try them out, like at a swim run, at like one of these shakeouts, ask someone if you could try out their paddles and go for a swim, see how it feels.
And honestly, so
we would be happy to make it happen.
So I've done that with people like mid swim when I was training with Calico at that time. Like Liza wanted to try the paddles. I'm like, yeah, sure. We're just like bobbing, just like,
in the middle of the water. Yeah,
got the big ass pull buoys. You're floating. But yeah, I can't imagine a swim runner that won't be like, no, you can't try these paddles.
Once you go carbon, though, I don't know. It's really tough. I don't think I could
go back.
I can't go back.
Well, yeah, like I was saying, I was a total skeptic on the carbon paddles. But like if I tried, I was using like the tier catalyst kind of very normie swim, pool swimming. But I can't use them now. I feel the flex behind where my hand is pulling, and like I can't do it. It just feels floppy. Like my hand when I'm just swimming without paddles is more stiff, and the floppiness of the plastic paddle.
It feels like you're swimming with a pair of magazines taped to your hand. Is basically what it sounds like. So yeah, carbon fiber. Certainly, it's a bit extra, but that's part of the fun of it. Have we covered everything? Where do we?
Well, I think the one thing we didn't touch on is straps, but I think that's like such a personal thing that Frank kind of has his own system, and then everything else is kind of its own.
The rubber tubing,
more normal
kind of stuff.
Silicone rubber tubing, but yeah, I think in terms of straps, just strap it the whatever way works for you.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's any specific advice. Yeah, how do you like it?
Yeah, if you like it out of the box, stick with that. But if like, I would honestly trade out the ones that came with the Evolvent. They're like TheraBand. They even have like the TheraBand logo on it. The Evolvent ones. I would probably.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. You probably want something that isn't hollow.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I guess we never got. Where do you? After all this testing and time in the lab as well, where are you going with, Hugh, for your race paddle this season?
If I get the Evolvent's back for you before Lake James. I would probably use them for Lake James.
Cool.
And see
Well, I'll send them back to you.
Yeah.
Well,
Send them back right
I
now.
have a deadline now. I'm going to run it over the post right now.
But,
Who are you
otherwise-
racing Lake James with?
What's Animos?
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Team Calamanders.
Formerly.
Formerly, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good time. I haven't done Lake James before, so.
Oh wow,
You're
nice.
going to have a great time.
Well, we have a course preview show on it.
Oh, I know. You know I have.
Yeah.
Hugh, man, thank you
Awesome.
so much for taking the time to do this. I think it's super fun. I'm sticking with Frank Paddle, not just from a loyalty perspective, but I also just love their paddles. So
Works for you, don't fix it.
Exactly, it's been working. What about you, Chipper?
I probably will get the Frank Pros, the blue steels he just came out with, and that's been on Chris and I's wish list because I like the glossy texture, but the sort of like sandpapery.
Like-
it just
yeah, it's like a
it
matte
doesn't have a
finish kind
matte
of thing.
finish. It is there. It has a nice hand feel to it during the race, and it's a good feel. It is a little bit tougher to scrub the hieroglyphics off at the end, but I'll probably go with the Frank Paddle Pro Blue Steels.
Yeah,
The new hotness from Frank
Same.
Paddle.
same.
And Hugh, you're going with the snakeskins.
If you send
Or
it
at least
back
for Lake
to-
James, right?
What's that?
Yeah, like at least for Lake James, you're not committing to like a season. Or
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to try them out there because one thing I haven't done is like a full like swim run session with them. So I am curious how it does running.
Nice.
'Cause they're pretty big. So
Cool. Well, that just means we're gonna get there'll be a short addendum to this episode in a few weeks.
well, yeah, I'm very new to these paddles. So like, yeah, I'll be learning a lot. And yeah, this
That'll
is
be
the
cool.
final
That'll be cool,
word.
man. Well, Hugh, man, thanks so much, man. This was super fun.
Yeah, thank you.
I love geeking out on this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on. And we should run into you sometime this year.
Yeah, I'll see you at Whistler.
Sweet.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice.
Sweet.
That'll be
Looking
good.
forward to it. Yeah.
We have a course preview on that episode as well.
That's surprising.
All right, Hugh, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks again. Bye.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Check out our website, lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z, for swimrun resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boys on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swim run and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run,
And then a swim,
then another run,
then another swim.
then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
Of
too.
course, yes.